Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought today we would have a look at the Battle Pass, and by Battle Pass, I mean Warbond shop for the Battle Pass itself. Obviously, with the first day of Royal Card going on, there are a few things which are obviously going along with it. The challenges have started, don't worry, we'll make a video on them tomorrow, and then also the Warbond shop. So I thought I would give my recommendations, my thoughts in general when it comes to this stuff. Now remember, when it comes to the old Warbond shop, if you still want something out of this one, it is actually still available for 7 days, so you can grind basically Warbonds in the new Battle Pass and spend them on the old one. So if there's something you're really close to, make sure to get it in the next week or so. For the new Warbond shop, it's basically the same as the old one. The only difference is they have once again swapped the camouflages out for the helmets. I disagree with this decision. I don't understand why we can't have both. ¿Por qué no los dos at the end of the day? Like, why can't we have both of them? Like, the battle passes are on 3 months rotations. So why does camos, or why do camouflages have to be on that? Same with the helmets as well. It just seems odd to me. Everything else is obviously pretty much the same. You know, you have probably slightly different decals, and then also the decal this time is the Scorpio Zodiac one, for obvious reasons. This is the one around this time, or is it? I don't even think it is. Anyway, going into the vehicles that are going around, I would actually say the vehicle choices are pretty good this time. You don't have any additional stuff, so you basically just have the 6 vehicles, and then also the test drives which are around. So for the test drives, you have 4 of them: the Helena, the Type 75 MLRS, the SU-11, and the Mi-24P. So for the good old test drives, I think the Type 75 MLRS is completely useless. It's a really bad vehicle. It got a bit of a buff for overpressure changes, but there are a lot better vehicles than this for Japan. I suppose this might be a perfect opportunity for you to give it a go and see how it is, but I really don't like this vehicle and how it plays. I think it's a lot worse than its counterparts. The Mi-24P, this could be a good idea for a person who is looking to get into helicopters. Maybe use this as kind of a test to see how all the mechanics work, you know, give heli PV a go and all of that stuff. It doesn't have as many missiles or as much armament as other vehicles of the genre, but it does have access to the flares and chaff and the IRCM, which is really nice for it, especially at 9.7, and the Germans have a pretty strong 9.7 lineup as well, as long as you've been doing the events for the last little bit, so might be worth giving it a go. The vehicles for the test drive, the Helena is one of the strongest cruisers in the game. It is the strongest light cruiser. It just depends on how it matches up against specific heavy cruisers, especially over American ones that they've added, such as the Des Moines class. So the Helena is very strong, incredibly easy and fun to use. And then also the SU-11, we've talked about it many times. This one is also incredibly good and going up in BR soon. So remember that when it comes to the machine. So it might be worth getting it in now if you can, so you can kind of give it a go and have a little bit of fun. The special tasks required for each of these, so 15 for the higher end vehicles and 10 for the lower end. This is exactly the same as what it was before. As I said, they haven't really changed anything. I feel like it might be time to revitalize this stuff nowadays when it comes to Gaijin. The lower end ones, you got the PR123K A111, or so the A11, then you got the Arado, the AR196A5, and then also the Chihi, so the Chihi makes it in. All 3 of these are completely fine when it comes to their general uses. The issue is they are quite low BR, and therefore not too good for the old grinding thing. The best out of the lot, I'd say, is the 123K A11, because this one actually has usefulness above its BR. It is really fast, especially in arcade, and has access to 2 14.5mm KPVs. This means that you can get into engagements, get a cap at, and then run away as quick as you can. It also has kind of a little hydrofoil setup, so you can skim through the water incredibly quickly. It also has torpedoes, so you can use this against destroyers and stuff like that. Even if they don't do too much damage as torpedoes to them, at least you're doing something compared to a lot of the coastal machines which just get beaten up by them. So this thing does have multiple uses. It also has access to the good old smoke screen, or at least it used to. Yeah, there it is. So you can get out of situations once you get in them. So yeah, I generally think it's not a bad little machine. There's a lot of vehicles like this, 4 coastal, which is super fun, and this one is definitely one of them. And it's very maneuverable, very quick, and as long as you have your butt looked at the enemy, it can work really well, and it can be very powerful. So overall, not too bad. Then you have the Arado 196A5. This vehicle, I think, was added recently, if I remember. I don't think this has been in the game for too long, but what it is a standard hydroplane. It doesn't really have too much uses when it comes to the game. The only reason to get this one is, I suppose, for novelty purposes. It's not something that's going to take over games. It's not going to do anything which is going to be any different from the norm, apart from land on water. And its general weaponry is a little bit odd for a hydroplane. It has 220mm MGFFs, so 120 rounds overall. Also has access to 250 kilo bombs, which is quite cool, but that's about it. So it's not really going to take the world by storm. It's not going to do anything crazy. It's just going to, basically just be a little bit of fun if you want to either start grinding out Sweden or France, or just kind of relaxing after a long day. Stuff like T-35s and things are good for that, and other things to just kind of piss about with, like the Arado, is not a bad idea. But if you're actually looking to be efficient or grind stuff out, this is not the way that you go. When it comes to the Chihi, and now I like the Chihi. I like the fact that this gun has a vertical stab. This means at the BR of 2.7, you can really, do a lot of damage, because you can generally get the first shot off. It also has a 5-man crew, so if your turret gets popped, you survive, which is quite nice. It has okay mobility. It's not the best in the world. It has a good reload on the 47mm, and also in general it has pretty poor armor. It basically, wherever you angle, it's one of those wonderful holes where wherever you angle, somebody's going to have a weak spot. So let's say you angle like this, they just shoot you here. If you angle like this, they just shoot you here, and if you angle like this, then they just shoot you here. So it's not fun when it comes to the armor. The armor is pretty useless. So getting that first shot off with the vertical stabilizer is very, very useful. It doesn't really reverse either. That's not really its wheelhouse. You have stuff like Stuarts at this BR, which are very mobile. The Chihi isn't that. It's a little bit less mobile and more like take position, bang, 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 hold an area and then move forward. The vehicle has really good gun depression, so it can take a lot of really good positions. I think overall, the vehicle's okay. It just has one issue, and it's one which can be got around through very precise shooting. But a lot of the time, when a vehicle that you're facing can shoot you anywhere, and you have to specifically pick where you need to shoot, usually that's going to be a lost engagement, just because of the simple fact it's going to take you more time to precisely shoot, and there's more chance that you screw up compared to the enemy. And the reason is because of this APHE round. It pens alright, and if it does pen, it's going to do a ton of damage to a vehicle, but there are vehicles like the M4 105, which will be very strong against you, and also will be able to, shove off a lot of your rounds and not have to worry about it. So that's a bit of a problem. It does get artillery though, since it's a medium tank, and also at the BR that it's at, it does have quite a lot of support around it. You have the standard Chihi, of course. You have the Chiha Kai, which I personally really like. You got the M16 nowadays, and you've also got some air support as well. So it's not like it's alone by itself. It's also in the starter pack. So if the starter pack ever goes on sale, you can kind of just pick that one up as well for a very, very cheap price. So out of these, the 123K is very fun. The 196 is okay, but it's just, I don't know why you'd ever pick it up in the Warbond shop. And then also the Chihi. Looking at the higher ones, you got the Genieri. This is one of the Italian destroyers. But the key fact about this Genieri, because we actually have more than one Genieri, this is a American destroyer, which means that it's actually good because it's not an Italian destroyer. This was a vehicle which has the 3-inch guns on it, it has the 5-inch guns on it, and if you know anything about them on the American ships, you know the fire rate is insane on them. This one is very similar to like the Farragut class or something like that, and it will just do a lot more damage than you are used to when it comes to a lot of Italian destroyers. A lot of Italian destroyers have very slow fire rate. Their rounds are generally not the best, and their survivability is pretty weak. So why not have a premium which gets you through a lot of those and then gets you into the early cruisers, which are actually pretty good for Italy. You know, the Bartolomeo Colleoni, the Regolo, I think it's called, is very fun. So getting a machine which has very high reward when it comes to its SL and pretty good RP to get you through a lot of those early stuff, I actually don't think is a bad idea. And this thing has pretty much anything you would want. You know, it has the torpedoes, which are not very good. And this thing doesn't get a torpedo mode for some reason, so they won't get any better. It has access to the HE, HEVT, and also AP, since they're 5-inch guns, and then on the 3-inch guns you've got HE and HEVT, so good old multi-purpose, which is quite nice. Overall, this is just a nice machine, and if you are interested in Italian naval, and you know, there are more reasons nowadays to be interested in Italian naval. I still think it's pretty weak compared to what we've seen previously, but you never know. Maybe they get a barnstormer at some point. It also does get this fire director, which, as you can see, the calculation time is insanely good because this is a machine from the 70s. So 6-second calculation time, fire update is 3 seconds. So once you look at a target, you will be, basically measured on it straight away, so you can start these 5-inch guns firing, and since they have a really good reload, it's insanely fast that you can start doing damage to machines. So that's actually not a bad pick. The XP50 is obviously very good. One of the things that the XP50 gives you is in air, it gives you positioning, and then it is up to you to use that positioning to your advantage. Stuff like the Spitfire LF Mark 9 back in the day used to do the same thing until they started adding stuff around its BR, which was incredibly powerful. The XP50 still is pretty much unmatched when it comes to it. One of the things that you can see is the rate of climb, but in game this thing will always be about 500 to 1,000 meters above pretty much anything else. When you get to the engagement area, it also has the guns to be able to deal with anything, 220mm and also 212.7s. Where people fail with this thing is they go for the initial hit and then they miss, and then they keep trying to go for hits over and over and over again, and then they just keep missing over and over again. They bleed all their energy because it is, at the end of the day, a twin engine vehicle which will burn energy way quicker than something like a Zero, which is a lot lighter, and then they get caught and die. So patience is required, just like with stuff like the P-38, but this gives you the initial advantage, and with the initial advantage you can do whatever you want with, and you can conduct the battle as you feel like, and that makes this vehicle incredibly powerful. It also has an olive green camouflage, which I think is really nice. It's just like the standard American one, but on this machine it just looks really, really beautiful. The other machine, which is on offer, is of course the KV2. So donk time. This thing is really fun. I think after the overpressure changes, the KV2 finally came back in favor for me. It's just a machine that you can just fire either the SAP CBC at someone, the HE or the AC. I mean, you gotta go HE, right? Like, you gotta have a bit of fun with it, and it's just enjoyable. You know, if you've had a long day, you know, you just come home from work and you've had to make dinner, you know, all the kids are shouting and everything, they've finally gone to bed. Best thing to do, sit down, fire HE at people, have fun. And that's just the KV2. It has a really long reload. It isn't good. Like, it's not something which, you know, it won't take the world by storm or anything like that. Like, it's not gonna go crazy. It's a heavy tank, so it's got odd SP costs. It doesn't have artillery. It doesn't have all of these different things, but that's that one special moment where somebody walks around the corner and you just hear "Gadoof" and he just disappears from your screen. it just feels so good. It's also a rank 3, which is very important because then it can be used for all dailies and special tasks. So there's that as well. There are much better options in this thing, but this is at least fun. You also get some interesting camos for it, since it is the German KV2, and even a marketplace camo, just in case you wanted one. It has a huge weak spot, the cupola, but that really doesn't matter because this is a weak spot on the KV2, and it's very easy to go through this bit. So yeah, a 75 on there, 50 on here, even 30 if you can get it through the slit. So yeah, it's a vehicle which isn't very well armored, even though it's a heavy tank. The reason you play this thing is memes. So if you want to actually be effective and efficient and grind the game properly and all that, obviously the XP50 and the Genieri is the way to go. If you want to have fun and have a few memes, KV2 and then also a Rado. But if you want like my power ranking, I suppose. So number 1 is the XP50, number 2 is the 123K, number 3 is the Genier, but the only reason it's number 3 is because of the Italian texture itself. If I was just basing it on the specific vehicle, I'd probably put it at 2. Number 4 is the KV2. Number 4 is actually the Chi-He I would go for. You're gonna have bad days where you run into people that's gonna be super rough, like 3.7s and things. Number 5 is the KV2, and number 6, of course, the Arado, just because it's a rank 1, it's slow, and there's not a lot going for it. So overall, a decent set. I hope that they do, as I said, this year have a rethink of some of the Warbond stuff, shop stuff, just because basically, if you have a think about it, so in a year you have 4 battle passes, and that means 6 times 4, which is what, 20, 21? No, 6, 12, 18, 24. So 24 vehicles on offer overall, and this 6, there's nothing really special about them. So I hope that in the future they change up what's going on. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank Forge, Siegebreak, Carrion Crow, Nicholas Richardson, Elove Goat, Pyman, Winter Scientist, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, and also Sem Arslan, Wilkski, Uncle Bean, Derek R., Bareen, Lafouche, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.